Hey everyone, today I've got a treat for you. I'm here with Fabian. Fabian, you the blockchain lead at Microsoft South Africa.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And today we're going to talk a little bit more about Azure blockchain service and some of the new announcements that were made recently, including things like the blockchain token system, a few other things, right?
Yeah. There's lots of developments happening in the blockchain space, and Microsoft's really paying attention to it.
So before we get to that, so for the viewers out there, I normally make these videos, guys, and I talk about Ethereum, which is a public chain, an autonomous, distributed, decentralized ledger. But Fabian, let's start here. There is a need for what we call private or consensus chains for business solutions. Just a quick summary of why and why we would need that.
Yeah, I think from a privacy perspective, you wouldn't want sensitive information to be in public domain.
Absolutely.
So you have the biggest non-adoption factor has been how do businesses actually maintain control to some degree of how they interact with other businesses without it being in the public domain. And then you have permission blockchains.
Yes.
Or distributed ledgers, as people refer to it as well. You have the likes of Quorum, which is essentially Ethereum based because that's a fork of Ethereum.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
JPMorgan Chase has actually forked Ethereum to actually bring it in-house.
So those guys were criticizing, JPMorgan was criticizing blockchain technology for a while.
Correct.
And they quietly forked it and created Quorum.
Correct.
Okay, very interesting.
So Quorum is a permission blockchain, mostly used within FSI, the financial services industry, to ensure finality.
Right.
The Reserve Bank, the South African Reserve Bank's Project Cocoa, which was to prove the real-time gross settlement system on a distributed ledger, was actually written in Quorum.
Right. Okay.
And all the banks that participated had to understand Quorum and use that.
So let's come back to it. So there is a need for private chains. We don't want sensitive information in the public domain.
Correct. Yeah.
We can run this in cloud, a cloud platform like Azure.
Yes.
The public chains like Ethereum, EOS, Neo, they serve the decentralized need because that's the point. We want apps that are not owned and controlled by anyone. Someone can write a piece of code that has it does something for the public good.
Correct. Yeah.
For the social good, and it runs in a decentralized manner. Nobody can shut it down. But there may also exist a scenario where we need interoperability.
Correct.
You have a public service running on the public Ethereum blockchain. In a business scenario, if you, me, and someone else are part of a business value chain or a supply chain, we may have a consortium chain just so there's trust between the three of us. But it may even need to interact with the public Ethereum network.
Correct.
Or another blockchain platform.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of development has been made in getting that interoperability. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so there have been various initiatives in the past. The issue has always been this lack of trust.
Absolutely.
And blockchain has been invented or created by Satoshi Nakamoto to address this issue of trust. So that the trust that exists currently, or doesn't exist currently because of various issues that have occurred in banks, for example, blockchain has been built to address that issue where blockchain becomes the trust element between various parties that are interacting with each other.
Or it is inherently trustless. I've heard that term.
Yeah, there's this concept called trustless trust. You don't have to trust the individual, but you trust the system.
Right.
That the system will do what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
And to a large effect, it's been successful, Bitcoin being the number one use case for blockchain in the world, and then Ethereum coming on board as well. So there's a lot of trust being built through a system.
Right. So a quick example that I could use for viewers out there would be in a supply chain, because I don't think everyone still gets why you would need a consortium chain. You would have a farmer producing goods, you have a supplier taking his raw goods to a warehouse or processing plant. They create a finished product like a box of biscuits or cookies.
Yes.
And now you could track all of that, and then once again from the production warehouse you have logistics delivering all the way to the end supermarket.
Correct. Yeah.
Now you put this on a commission chain using whatever technology, and those individuals can track from the time something's grown, let's say wheat or corn, all the way to the supermarket shelf.
Good.
They can track these batches, But we don't want that on the public networks. And if everybody starts building these solutions, it would overwhelm the public networks, like the public Ethereum network, even though Ethereum is going to scale very well in the future. So that's why you would have that. So we've covered what are consortium networks.
Yeah.
We've covered some of the issues. Now talk about some of the new announcements, and maybe you want to draw. As your blockchain service,
Yeah.
a lot of work's being done. What is CCF, and what are Azure blockchain tokens, which I believe are first for commission chains?
Yeah, so Azure Blockchain Service is a platform as a service which allows you or any person to actually deploy a blockchain solution.
Right.
Fully integrated in Azure Blockchain Service is Quorum,
Right.
fully supported. So if today Quorum needs to fork
Yes.
for whatever reason, and it's maintained by JPMorgan Chase developers,
Right.
pretty much, it's done on Azure Blockchain Service.
But it is open source right now.
It's open source right now. Anyone can change it if it's good enough.
So let's go, I think, a little bit more to that side.
Yes.
Firstly, if I'm building a chain, a consortium chain,
Yes.
for a private or semi-private solution,
Yes.
there's so many technologies out there. I'm an Ethereum fan, as viewers
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Why can't I just build it using Ethereum technology? What are the pros and cons of the top 2 or 3 blockchains out there?
So I would say that if you look at Quorum, for example, Quorum specifically caters for the financial services industry, based
Right.
both by JPMorgan Chase, which is a large bank,
Right.
to ensure finality, being that at any point in time, at the end of the process or end of the transaction, you can cash out and actually reach some financial gain in the
Cash out in what? In
So,
dollars?
from any fiat that you choose.
Okay, very
Yeah.
interesting.
So, for example, the Project Coca PLC that Reserve Bank, the South African Reserve Bank had, you could cash out into rands at the end of that.
Okay.
So it starts with a token. So blockchain is an attestation engine. It attests that a transaction has occurred, and that transaction is then basically propagated to the entire network to say, this has happened,
Yeah.
based on some rules, and the entire ecosystem has agreed upon previously. They agree that this is a valid transaction. It then gets written to the ledger. Okay. That ledger sits with everyone else. So
Now, on a private or consortium chain,
yes,
the confirmation of transactions and blocks, you're not going to have miners for that. That doesn't make
No.
sense.
so there are various consensus mechanisms that we adopt. So
Right.
if you look at a hyperledger, for example, Fabric or Sorted Lake, any of those variances, you're looking at a Byzantine fault tolerance consensus mechanism. What it pretty much means is that you could lose potentially a third of the nodes that comprise the ecosystem through bad actors or malicious
Okay.
code. The other 2/3 still continue to verify transactions.
Okay, so there's an element of risk still,
Yes.
but typically in the business value chain, the actors are semi-trusted. You know everybody, but
Yes.
still, the reason for a blockchain solution is to make sure that information is shared. But so you don't have miners, but you still have nodes validating these blocks, and
That's correct.
I would assume each party holds a few X number of nodes, something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
and that's
which-
why the cloud works for this, because you don't want to put down hardware for this, so you spin up these nodes in the cloud, and it's more cost efficient
Correct.
and more energy efficient. I would imagine in the cloud.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So I can map out something for you quickly. Just
let's go for
a
it.
scenario base. So let's say company A has a node, whatever it may be. Company B is invited to participate. So this could be a supplier of whatever parts you want.
right.
This could be a customer that consumes it, and company C could be a watch node, for example, like a regulator, for example,
Okay,
as part of this ecosystem.
so a third party.
Third party. Let's call this Azure, for example. This is the Azure cloud.
Right.
Okay. Company A has a tenant within Azure. Company B has a tenant within Azure. Company C has a tenant within Azure. What allows them to actually, a layer of security or identify who these are, is Azure Active Directory.
Right, so we're bringing enterprise business technology into these blockchains now, because these chains effectively operate in the business environment.
Correct.
Right.
So various company users from these consortium members would identify or authenticate via Azure Active Directory. So they are known within the system. Okay? So anything that happens, let's for example, company A does something funny, tries to pass a fraudulent transaction, it'll be flagged potentially within the ledger, and this ledger is distributed real time through all participants. So the traditional client-server application that, or topology that we're so accustomed to falls away. So any transaction that is written in this ledger is then propagated real time to all the participants who have a ledger.
So let me ask you a question. Why not have a database at each party and some sort of middleware to keep the databases in sync? Is it because I could JPO my database?
You could potentially do that, yes. Remember, this is an immutable ledger.
Right.
So once it's written and it complies with the rules of the ecosystem, whichever consensus mechanism is adopted, it gets written and it cannot be deleted.
Yes.
Or amended. So blockchain is an append-only mechanism.
Yeah.
It will only append to the ledger.
Okay.
So you want to have that because you then ensure trust and transparency between all stakeholders. Previously, you would have probably needed a reconciliations department sitting here. So recons.
Yeah.
And why would you have a reconciliation department? It's because I don't trust what happens with A, B, and
Well,
C.
the recon department could be corrupted in some way.
It could be.
Okay.
They can work with old data.
Now here's the thing. We could have done this for a few years now using cloud technology and some of the blockchain technology.
Yeah.
We obviously talking about Azure.
Yeah.
What's new in 2019 that's been announced?
Well, there's, for one, the confidential consortium framework,
CCF.
CCF.
Now this relates to the types of blockchain technologies you can use for these chains
Correct.
and these solutions,
Yeah.
and they improve performance.
And there's also the trusted execution environment as well, which exists, which Azure blockchain runs upon.
So this is something I'm very passionate about. Intel and Microsoft have been working on the trusted execution environment, TEE, using Intel's XGX technology.
Yep.
And in the Azure cloud, we encrypt everywhere. Data at rest, data in motion, even data being processed technically in CPUs in Azure, there's a level of encryption.
Correct.
Now we're saying we're bringing this to everything in Azure, including the blockchain platform.
Correct. Which
Okay.
includes the Azure blockchain tokens platform as well.
Right, now, so let's talk about tokens because that's new. Now, in the public space, once again, I'm an Ethereum fan. I build a solution deployed on Ethereum. Now, wherever I need an element of value as
Yeah.
part of that solution, whether it's a supply chain, let's talk about a supply chain solution. You transfer goods to me,
Yeah.
or there's some legal contract between you and me, and we implement it as a smart contract.
Correct.
I need to pay you in some form. I can use Ether, which is the store of value on the Ethereum network.
Yeah.
There are tokens now built on top of Ether, like DAI. By the way, DAI is now called Psi.
Okay.
Didn't know if you know that.
I heard about it, yeah.
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 And that's just that's a token that's linked to the value of the US dollar.
Yeah, that's a stable coin.
Stable coin,
Yeah.
right? So you guys now know what a stable coin is. But on consortium chains, I wouldn't say we couldn't do it because IBM had the Stellar Lumens platform. And how did that work?
Well, so Stellar Lumens isn't owned by IBM. It's just
Right.
an association between Hyperledger.
Some people
Okay.
claim they owned it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a bit of, like, I'm not sure.
Marketing.
So they actually needed to find a way to offer finalization, right? So they linked a token on Hyperledger blockchain to a Stellar Lumen, which is then tradable on a cryptocurrency exchange.
Right, so that's all public. I can go buy Stellar from most of the exchanges.
Correct.
Right.
So you could then basically fund your tokens in the ecosystem with Stellar Lumens.
Okay.
So let's say you purchase 100 tokens, for example, or 100 tokens are generated. You could then attach one Stellar Lumen equals one token on the ecosystem.
And that would be the unit of value.
Correct. So the ecosystem agrees to the rules within that ecosystem.
So that actually sounds like a good idea, and that could still take off. In which case, the future could be bright for Stellar. I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But now, what have we done with Azure blockchain tokens? We can now create tokens specifically for
Yes.
consortiums.
Absolutely. So what happens is, very high level, you have a developer, okay? The developer sits here, just a developer, right? And previously, you'd be able to write a smart contract in either, let's call it
Solidity, maybe?
Solidity over there.
You've done lots of Solidity.
Yeah, and then Viper's the new one, right?
I've never heard of Viper, so what's that?
So Viper's like Solidity, it's a bit easier to actually code in.
Right.
Okay, so this is for smart contracts, okay, on the Ethereum network or Quorum network.
Or can we call it Ethereum or Ethereum-like chains?
Correct.
Right, okay.
Okay, so that is Solidity and Viper. Then for Hyperledger, you'd look at Go language, Golang,
Okay.
which is the code you'd use to write smart contracts on Hyperledger.
So Hyperledger, once again, open source, but IBM's done a lot of work supporting it, but we support it on Azure as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was initially brought to the Hyperledger project
Yeah.
by IBM and opened up and extended to everyone else publicly to actually amend code.
Right.
So you actually need to, if it's on the Hyperledger, you'd use Golang. If it's on Ethereum-like a blockchain, you'd use Solidity or Viper to write these smart contracts. What is common with all smart contracts is there are things that happen, events that happen that are executed.
Right.
So for example, it could be, when I die, I could have my entire will as a smart contract.
Absolutely.
So when I die,
But now, you probably want that on a public chain.
You could have this between consortium members, for example, an attorney, a bank, that you're part of, that you interact with, you can build
So
that.
then my assets are not exposed to the world.
Correct.
But there's still, I'm lessening my risk. It's not a single party that owns my will.
Correct.
So it's not on the public chain, the whole world can't see my assets, but it's also, I'm not reliant on one actor.
No.
I've got a consortium chain with many actors, and my interest.
You could have an investment company that you have investments with. So all of that can be written as a smart contract. In the event of an event happening, kick off certain things.
Right.
So in most cases, on Hyperledger, for example, the way you would simulate an asset being transferred would be a transfer of a token from one party to another. At the end of the process, that token is then basically, it sits with you now from A to B, but I want to cash out on that, and somehow you need to link a token to some fiat. It could be gold as well. There's been talk about linking these new cryptocurrencies to gold, which is, the gold standard was successful for a lot.
The thing is, you need to prove that you own gold. So this has been spoken about, by the way.
Yeah.
So if I come up with a crypto and I've issued 10 million coins, I need to prove that I have that amount of gold. So where's the trust? But anyway, we need to wrap up, right?
Yes.
So we can now create tokens on Azure blockchain.
Yes.
How do we link it to something of value?
So it depends which permissioned blockchain you want to go with. If it's Quorum, for example, you could create a token on Quorum that complies with the token taxonomy framework's standards.
Right.
Okay.
So there is a standard around.
There is a standard.
Right.
It's derived from the token taxonomy initiative, which Microsoft is a part of with Hyperledger, Quorum, Cardano, and all the other major permissioned
Okay.
players.
So
IBM is part of it.
Okay.
IBM is part of it as well. It's the Ethereum Alliance.
I've heard of the Ethereum
Is
Alliance.
part of the Token Taxonomy Initiative, and the members decide how this develops, and it's been extended to others as well. So, if a token is developed according to the Token Taxonomy Framework standard, all the participating members understand how this token will work, and it's run on Azure Blockchain Service to ensure consistency of a platform.
Right.
Okay, and the rules are known. So a token that's created on a Quorum network, of which Quorum is a part of, and JPMorgan is a part of the Token Taxonomy Initiative, it can be transferred to a Hyperledger. So for example, if one company runs a Quorum network, so company Z runs
So this
Quorum,
is giving us interoperability now.
interoperability. Another Y runs Hyperledger.
So these are consortiums, not individuals. This is a consortium chain in Quorum.
Correct. But so you could have a participating member running on a consortium for quorum, and you have a participating member running on Hyperledger. They do not want to change because they've got the architecture built out.
Right.
You can now transfer ownership of assets via a token from a quorum permission blockchain to a Hyperledger permission blockchain.
Okay, and then you're going to get to one. From here, I could finalize to Stellar Lumens.
Correct.
And then I could go to a public exchange.
A public exchange, or you can transfer to Ether. Yeah.
This is so fascinating. I think we're still very early.
Yeah.
We're very early.
It's in preview, right? So we need to get some feedback.
I think the next 10 years is going to be so exciting, right? Because now in the public space, there's so many developments on Ethereum and the other smart contract platforms. But in the business space as well, with these consortium chains, can I call them semi-private chains?
Yes.
Or private chains if you want.
Permission.
The amount of business solutions and use cases that are going to be unveiled over the next 5 years is just going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean that's another opportunity if you want to be a smart contract developer. That could be an opportunity for you to get into smart contract development, not just for public smart contracts, but to build these enterprise level solutions, right?
Yeah.
So there's more we can talk about. We can talk about the AD integration in upcoming videos, the integration with other existing back-end business systems, and then doing
and other services within Azure, for example,
Yeah.
Key Vault.
Key Vault. Okay.
You could potentially store and recycle your keys within Key Vault.
Right.
Your private keys, which enable you to initiate a transaction in the first place.
Right.
So if this, I think what is great is that Azure Blockchain Service, Azure Blockchain Tokens, Azure Blockchain Workbench, it actually lives Microsoft's mission statement, which is to empower every person in an organization to achieve more.
Right.
We allowing customers, we allowing businesses to actually play.
Okay. Excellent.
It's a means to actually start something.
Excellent.
Yep.
I think next we should do a deep dive on CCF. Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I think a lot of crypto guys talk about the public chains and the price and do price predictions, but I think it's equally important for us to start talking about this type of solution, the consortium chain, and how it's going to change the business landscape going forward. So I hope you enjoyed that. Fabian, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
We're going to see you again soon. Guys, if you like this, hit like and give us some feedback and look out for future videos in this series, Azure Blockchain Service. Enjoy your day, evening, and I'll see you again soon.
Cheers, everyone.